Hello and welcome to VistaTalks, interesting discussions with interesting people from all around the world. My name is Simon Hodgkins. Today I've got the privilege of sitting down with Chief Executive Tom Bridges, a trailblazer in the world of multimedia localization. Tom's journey from the bustling streets of London through to the forefront of innovation has been nothing short of inspiring. As an entrepreneur with a keen eye for those industry gaps, Tom recognized the critical need for efficient, accurate subtitling and localization, and thus CaptionHub, I suppose, was born. Imagine, if you will, a platform where subtitling becomes seamless, AI-powered automation transforms multimedia content, and it adds those, well-crafted captions across many languages. CaptionHub achieves all of that, whether it's TED Talks that inspire millions of people, blockbuster movies captivating global audiences, or corporate training videos, sharing knowledge around the world. CaptionHub helps to streamline that process, and the mission is to make content accessible to diverse viewers, regardless of their language or their location. So let's get into the discussion with Chief Executive Tom Bridges. Tom, you're very welcome to VistaTalks. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Tell us a little bit about the journey. How did you go about founding CaptionHub? Where did the inspiration come from for you to create this platform for multimedia localization?
Of course, no, I'd be delighted to. And firstly, thank you for the introduction. That's, I think, possibly the best introduction I've ever had. So that's very, very kind of you. Yeah, sure, a little bit about the journey. So my background is in broadcast, really, particularly on the post-production side. I founded a post-production company. I've been involved in motion graphics and visual effects. And to a large extent, I'm still involved in that world. But CaptionHub was sort of born out of necessity. We were doing a lot of localization work for a client who I sadly can't mention, but possibly the biggest brand in the world. And, like lots of other companies, their requirements for scale grew to beyond what we could deliver as a small company, or indeed really wanted to deliver as a small company. So, I'd always been thinking, how can we be a bit smarter about the workflows here? And, we were in a very privileged position because we had that deep industry knowledge. We had that deep, understanding of what a major brand wanted to do. And so we were able to craft a technological solution in the form of CaptionHub that answered this particular client's problems. And, it turned out that these problems are fairly universal ones, and CaptionHub was born from that.
Yeah, it makes complete sense as well, and always helpful to work with one of the biggest companies in the world. I'm sure that's a great help too. But let's get into a little bit about CaptionHub, because I know you've introduced a lot of innovations and features around the caption service and platform. So what about these advancements, enhancing everything from subtitling and localization, that process for those clients? So what's involved in some of those innovations and features, Tom?
So CaptionHub started off life, as just a pure workflow tool. There were many different sort of stakeholders involved in subtitle localization, and CaptionHub provided a single source of truth and allowed, people to easily manage, those review and approve workflows effectively. And what it also did was it put the linguist sort of in charge, so to speak. Previously, what a linguist did was divorced from the process of actually doing the subtitling themselves. So subtitling would be done by someone who didn't speak a language, for instance, which often led to issues. So it started out as being quite a manual tool. We had the insight quite early on that we could leverage AI in order to make things faster. And we started out with transcription. That was quickly followed by machine translation. And then, recently we've been playing around with, not playing around, we have delivered synthetic voice. We can have, voiceover is now very much part of CaptionHub. We can create burnt-in subtitles. We can use AI to identify on-screen text. So with CaptionHub, we see our remit as being, where text and video and audio intersect. And that is a surprisingly rich seam. And the more time we spend here in this space, the more we realize that actually we're in a perfect position to provide a really sort of full-featured multimedia localization solution.
Yeah, I like that. And obviously, you mentioned AI, and AI sort of has changed a lot of things from, it seems to be baked into a lot of technology solutions already. There seems to have been a very quick race for people to adopt AI into their product suites and services. But it's also changed the world of content and content production phenomenally.
Mm.
It's interesting to see how you've sort of leveraged that. You're harnessing those AI-driven features such as, automated speech recognition, machine translation, etc. And it's obviously helping with things like efficiency and accuracy. Are there any sort of specific examples of how those AI-driven features are helping your clients and your customers?
Of course, yeah. So I think, first of all, it's important to say that whenever we integrate with a new technology at CaptionHub, we try and be very intentional about the way we do it. It's all well and good to say, oh, and we're fully AI enabled, but without having a really deep appreciation of what you're trying to achieve, AI can often be a distraction. It can just be a buzzword. And of course, AI nowadays means lots of different things. Speech recognition is technically AI, but I think when we think of AI nowadays, we're thinking of generative AI like ChatGPT, and there are distinctions to be drawn between the two. The other thing I'd say as well about what we're trying to do at CaptionHub is it's not just that we integrate with an AI, it's how we do that, it's the packaging on top of that. So with speech recognition, for instance, when we send audio off to a speech recognition provider, the speech recognition provider will send us back a big document with a bunch of words and some confidence scores with those words and some time codes for those words. And that data in of itself is not very useful until it gets processed by CaptionHub. And we've developed technology we call natural captions that is trying to do what a skilled human subtitler would do. So we're trying to make it fit into a specification. So numbers of characters a line, number of lines per caption, minimum duration, maximum duration, all of those different kinds of things. So I think that's quite a good example of a layer of packaging that we add into our products that it all happens behind the scenes. It's invisible to the end customer, but as far as they see, they run speech recognition. They could end up with a sort of a YouTube type transcription where individual words flash up on screen every time, but that's not a nice viewing experience. That they end up with really nicely formatted captions. So I think that's one example of what we're trying to do with AI. AI it's here to stay. It's making huge changes to our industry, but as I said, we're trying to be intentional about it and harness it for the service of doing something useful.
I really like that approach. And I mean, anybody who visits the CaptionHub website, I mean, they can see, there's a long list of these large brands that everybody would recognize on your site, whether it's the NHS, the BBC, Mattel, Alliance, Brompton, which I think is the cycle company, the folding bicycle company, which I know we had at our global headquarters for a long time, or MasterCard, or lots and lots of big brands that you work with. And it brings me on to my next question, which is around the scalability, because I know your solution is very enterprise capable at scaling. And that, when it comes to things like CaptionHub Live, how you're able to sort of almost revolutionize some of that real-time subtitling with 100+ languages. Like how is that working from an enterprise perspective?
So we, as I said at the outset, really, I think we've been in a really interesting position, with that deep knowledge we achieved with sort of client number one, so to speak, that understanding of enterprise process, that stood us in really good stead. And the enterprise has very specific requirements, one of which, as you rightly note, is scalability. The question, of course, is what is scalability? What does that mean? What does that translate to? I'll give you two examples of the kind of thing that sort of CaptionHub can do, if I may, to try and answer that question. So the first is a well-known provider of sort of really high-end educational videos, the kind of thing where you'd go to if you wanted to learn about, public speaking. Barack Obama would be telling you how to giving you tips on public speaking. So this customer had, a huge back catalog of content. They wanted it to translate it into 5 different languages. They already had those original captions, and so just doing machine translation on 5 different languages. And it turned out that including, doing this for their entire back catalog was nearly 250,000 minutes worth of subtitling. Using CaptionHub's built-in automation functionality, we did this inside of a weekend. So, that's really massive scale. And, I think a really interesting use case for CaptionHub is you can just point it at a back catalog of content. We can ingest it, translate it, and it can be back in someone's video platform, in a matter of hours. So I think that's one side of the coin that is really interesting from a scale perspective. Another on a totally different idea of scale, a great example though is our customer TED. So TED are using CaptionHub to do their subtitling for all of their TED Talks. TED have got over 60,000 linguists on the CaptionHub platform, and using the workflows that we've developed inside of CaptionHub, it's truly self-managing, and you can have a multi-stage edit, review, and approve process that doesn't involve full-time administrators. It's a self-managing thing. And being able to have that many people working in a collaborative way, I think, is another interesting take on this question of scale. But the last point I'd make as well about scale is that kind of connectivity. So connecting to an enterprise's translation management system, connecting to an enterprise's video platform, and being able to automate all of the joins between those various processes, I think is one of the really key ways we think about scale in CaptionHub.
No, thank you for diving into that, because I think you're right in terms of the definition of scale, and because it means different things to different people.
It does, yes.
You have some great examples there of how your platform helps with various types of scaling that's important. And I think the TED, everybody's familiar with TED Talks around the world, and being able to take a whole back catalog and point your platform at it and do something that would have taken an awful lot longer than a weekend to do.
Yes,
very impressive.
Exactly.
Now we're talking here about scale and AI and everything, but I want to come back to the real physical world for a moment, because VistaTech and CaptionHub recently exhibited together, didn't they, in I suppose a really big e-learning event in central London. Now, how important is it for CaptionHub to still be involved in this sort of, physical event space? Is that good for your business? I mean, what do you do when you go to these conferences?
We love going to events. It's there, and there are lots of different reasons why we go to events. We get to deepen relationships with partners. We get to meet existing customers. We get to meet potential customers. We get to see what competitors are up to. But I think more than all of these, my personal, why I love events so much is just we're a remote company, CaptionHub, and being able to see people in 3D and to interact with everyone in the real world, and see what people are up to, and talk to customers face to face and understand their particular issues or bottlenecks or localization problems. That gives me huge energy. And on a personal level, that's why I enjoy going to events. Just meeting people. That human interaction. It's something that we've taken for granted for a really long time. And I think when COVID hit, we all understood how much we actually missed it. And so I enjoy events for all sorts of reasons, but particularly that face to face aspect of it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see how the conferencing space and the event space was really decimated, wasn't it, for a year or two?
It was,
And then
yeah.
it sort of trickled back and then it came roaring back. And now I'm sure you attend a lot of the big events that we attend, and they're jam packed. I mean,
Mm,
it's not like they were maybe the first few weeks as COVID was starting to come to the end of that particular cycle. But I mean, they're really busy. The conference space
they're
seems to be
really,
red
really
hot
busy.
right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So looking a little bit into the future, if we can, AI is continuing to evolve, isn't it? There seems to be a new headline every day of the week. What do you see, as a chief executive in this space? Do you see this continual improvement? How do you see its impact on the localization industry as a whole? Are there any trends or challenges that are on your horizon, Tom? What's your viewpoint?
Well, so the first thing I'd say is that AI is clearly here to stay. If I told you I knew where we were on that sort of technology adoption curve, I'd be lying. Are we at the bottom about to accelerate? Are we halfway up? Are we slowing down? I don't know. I don't think we're slowing down though. Certainly looking at how quickly things seem to be evolving. Certainly, I can't recall a time when I've seen as much disruptive change as we're seeing right now. And the AI questions, especially around generative, I do see huge opportunity, and but I also see some quite significant uh, threats is probably overstating it, but legitimate concerns that we have, that our customers have, that we're working to overcome. So, to name a few, generative AI models can be subject to bias. We've seen some really appalling examples of this. Generative AI models are non-deterministic. You can ask it the same question multiple times and you will get different answers multiple times, which if you're building a language-based product, there's the potential for that to be challenging. And lastly, there are some really valid concerns around security. Is the data that I'm providing to CaptionHub, say, is that just going to end up training a model somewhere else? So and the answer to that, by the way, is no. But we're spending a lot of development cycles on integrating AI into the CaptionHub, or this generative AI into the CaptionHub product. But we're doing so in a way that we think is responsible and scalable, and going back to the point I raised earlier, actually in service of what our customers want to achieve, rather than us saying, "Oh yeah, but we do it." I think it's important to to always have our eyes on the key question: Is this useful? Is this making our customers' lives easier? Is this what people actually want? So yeah, no, but huge opportunities. I'll give you an example of something we're working on at the moment, which is a QC module that we're building into CaptionHub. So right now with CaptionHub, we have multiple checks that we're carrying out in real time. So, are there too many characters in this caption, for instance? And it'll tell you instantly if that's not the case. But there are some more interesting things that we can do. So, and which is sort of more asynchronous. So, a spell check process is something that's traditionally, relatively asynchronous. But we're looking at doing a machine translation quality evaluation report, based off of the subtitles that have been generated. We can, check something against the style guide. We can, check if there are any words that constitute advertising, for instance. And the idea behind our QC module is that not only will you get reports that are, have been authored by CaptionHub, but our customers can author their own reports, and they can, and then ultimately be able to query this via API, and ultimately be able to use generative AI to fix the issues that the QC report has identified. So there's some really, really interesting things. And I think this starts to form kind of a virtuous circle with respect to the AI.
Yeah, it's like an advanced QC module almost, isn't it? Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Sort of self-improving over time. Well, look, before we run out of time, I do want to squeeze in one more quick question. And that is, as well as the great work you're doing in the QC area, is there anything else that you're working on, or any sort of final thoughts you'd like to leave our international audience with about the great work you're doing at CaptionHub?
Thank you. Well, there's something you touched on earlier, actually, which is our live subtitling technology. This is something we're hugely excited about here at CaptionHub. We launched it in September last year. We've already been involved in that's 3 consumer launch events, but hugely, hugely high profile ones, some of the biggest technology brands on the planet. And we also provided the live subtitling for the AWS NVIDIA live NAB show thing at event at NAB, which provided a huge amount of visibility for us. But what I'm really encouraged with our live subtitling technology, this is, again, it's what I was talking about earlier. It's, we're not providing the underlying AI, but it's the packaging around it that really makes it unique. And so we can deliver synchronized subtitles to a browser in over 100 languages in real time. And the fact that everything is synchronized up, it's patent pending technology. We're seeing really, really strong adoption, and we're really excited about where this is going to go. The other area we're seeing huge demand for is synthetic voice. We've got integrations with Amazon Polly and with 11 Labs, and we're beginning to introduce voice cloning as well, and seeing more and more demand from our customers for this. And then the next logical step here is in using lip sync to rework the speaker's lips, so you can have your keynote speaker then speaking in his or her own voice in Spanish, for instance. And this is all being driven by customers, so there's some really exciting times ahead for us, as we continue to make inroads into this multimedia localization sector.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Tom, because I think the CaptionHub Live work that you're discussing there, and also Amazon or AWS and NVIDIA. I mean, you couldn't get 2 bigger brands in this space, particularly when it comes to NVIDIA and AI.
Yeah.
They're almost providing a lot of the backbone for what's going on in this world. And I think also you mentioned the lip syncing and the facial expressions as you're syncing between different languages. The companies that are getting that really right and really smooth, as you say, it's a customer-led sort of requirement, it really does help them to reach that international audience, doesn't it? And to really resonate with them, whether that's from a clone voice perspective or not. But yeah, fascinating time, and what a great space to be in, Tom.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a really fascinating area, and not without some, sort of ethical gray areas is the wrong word, but interesting questions, about content ownership, about training. If you're able to clone someone's voice, there should and need to be very, very strict safeguards around how that's used. But
yeah,
as I said, we're moving at this in a way that I think is sensible and responsible, but also addressing what our customers are asking for. So I couldn't be more excited about the direction this is headed in right now.
Well, continued success in everything that you're doing. I mean, it brings us nicely to the end of our discussion today, talking about all this wonderful, exciting time that we find ourselves in, with potentially more exciting times to come, Tom.
Yes.
I hope that people have enjoyed our discussion today, whether they've been watching or listening to this episode. I encourage people to tune in again to another episode of VistaTalks, where once again we'll be catching up with interesting topics with interesting people, just like Tom and the team over at CaptionHub. So thank you very much indeed for your time today. Thanks very much for being on the show, Tom. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me. Really kind.